So what is it that RedTail does? We sit between mid-sized suppliers, such as yourself, and the retailers, and offer EDI and GDS in the cloud. Now, EDI, people are familiar with, but GDS is Global Data Synchronization, which some of the large retailers require in order to do business with them. That's a whole webinar in itself, so if it's something that you need, we also offer that, and we could talk at a later time about it, or we could have a whole webinar on just GDS. The other thing is that, you know, not only do we sit between there, but a lot of companies nowadays are outsourcing not just EDI, but they're outsourcing their 3PL or their third-party logistics for sending out a lot of their goods. We have the capability of tying in with EDI to that third-party logistics warehouse and be able to send the information back and forth of what to ship, what got shipped, and so forth. The typical EDI, RedTail customer is anybody that really does business with any of the large retailers, some manufacturers, but mainly it's the Targets, the Home Depots, the Pennies, Walmarts of the world that are out there, and anybody that really supplies grocery, apparel, auto aftermarket, health and beauty supplies, toys, or anything that, you know, goes into any of these big box stores. The typical, mid-sized supplier, there's the small and, the people that run on a QuickBooks or something of a small accounting system. And that's a small EDI or web form. Then there's the large EDI software, the PeopleSoft, the SAP, the Oracles that probably do 50,000 transactions a month. But there's that typical mid-sized supplier, which is probably the majority of the people out there that offer, all these goods to these retailers and that have anywhere between 100 and 50,000 transactions a month. We're the ones that fall right in there, which is, where the Ativo and the ASCG group falls right into. And so it falls right in there, and it falls right in between, RedTail and these groups. So there's the different EDI predicaments. There's people that are new to EDI. All of a sudden you're starting to do business with a Walmart, a Target, and they say, we need to get you up and going on EDI in order to do business with us. So there's the people that are new to EDI. There's the people that started out and they did a web form and they were getting 5 or 10 orders, a month, and they said, okay, that's great. We can download it and rekey it and so forth. But what happens there is usually you outgrow the web forms. It's just not something that scales well. Then there's the people that already have EDI software. They have a full-time person doing EDI or nothing but EDI. And, they're spending all of their time doing nothing but that. As they're growing or needing more suppliers to put on, it's just becoming a bigger and larger burden on that company. So let's go through a little bit about EDI. I mean, EDI is tough. It's not something that is very simple, because if it was, everybody would be doing it. There's different, we call it the 4 C's. There's different types of code. There's Edifact, there's X12, there's RIFMAT, depending on the format that you're in, or the industry that you're in. There's the whole complexity of not just EDI, but your whole internal workflow process. An order comes in, it gets sent out to the warehouse, who picks it, who packs it, so forth. Then there's the whole compliance issue of staying up with the compliance, and not compliance just on the different versions of EDI, but on the whole compliance of if they're doing ASNs with UCC labels, or what is required on certain documents. So there's a whole compliance issue. But the other C is the cost. And what people don't realize is over 50% usually turns into people cost for doing EDI. Then there's the VAN, or value-added network, and then there's software if you're doing AS2 and different communication protocols. And if you're not doing it well, you're also getting hit with chargebacks or fees that your EDI is not compatible with the trading partner. So the consequences to not doing EDI well is a poor scorecard. Everybody that you start doing business with, if you're doing business with Target, they'll actually give you a scorecard. And if you're up in the high 90s, that's great. And usually your business ends up growing by, 10 to 20% because now if you handle a different item, then great. They'll pass that on to you because they know you do EDI well and they know they're not going to have any issues ordering from you. Sometimes you could have missed orders. If you're doing EDI yourself and something didn't translate correctly, you could have missed orders. There's high chargebacks if you're not doing advanced ship notices or invoices are coming in late. If the invoices aren't even being received or some of them have errors, you could have slow payments. Or it could also lead to losing the whole customer itself because usually what happens is they give you a test and if you're not handling the orders correctly and things aren't improving, then you could lose that customer. A little definition of advanced ship notice. An advanced ship notice is an electronic packing slip that's basically sent ahead of the goods so that if Target ordered, widgets from you, then they want to know when these widgets left your dock, how many widgets you sent, when it's going to be received at our store or DC, how many cartons, how many packs, how many items were in it, so that they know whether they have enough room in their warehouse or how they're going to store it, or if they're going to cross-dock that and send it directly over to the store. The ASN is very important to these retailers because they get this information ahead of time. As soon as it leaves your dock, you send that information to the retailer, and they know now that, great, that goods are on their way. Now we can place our advertisement. They can plan for the floor stock, merchandising at the store level. They can schedule all the unpacking and stocking of the shelf. Streamline the loading, the loading dock where a lot of these retailers do cross-docking, so it comes in on one side of the building and actually gets put to the other side into the correct location that's going to handle that one store so that they can ship it out, and minimize the whole labor cost and warehouse space. So the whole idea of EDI is they want this to run very smooth. They want it to, an order gets sent out, a ASN gets sent back to them as when it left, and an invoice gets sent for the exact amount that got shipped, and everything runs smooth, and they don't have to manually touch any of those boxes. Now, Auburn University did a ASN study on this that found that 28 leading retailers that were surveyed found that over 7% of the ASNs were inaccurate, which, they were either shortages of what people said were on there. There might have been overage. There was an unexpected item. Someone might have swapped an item in there. So these become huge costs to the retailer, and, it becomes very labor intensive. It, could lead to markdowns because if they didn't get the goods in time, or their sale ran, but then they couldn't fulfill their orders, or it could even lead to lost sales, for when they were advertising. So, in other words, there's no value in getting bad information ahead of time because it's still bad information. So there's different ways of approaching EDI. The conventional way of approaching EDI is there's the web form, and I talked a little bit about that. It's great if you're doing 5 or 10 orders, and it's inexpensive, but it's labor intensive. You have to tie into a website, be able to log in, download those orders, print them out, and then rekey them back into your ERP system. Then there's the EDI software, where you own all of the software, and I'll go through this in more detail a little further ahead, but you'll see all the pieces that belong into the EDI software, and someone has to maintain it. With RedTail, we have a new approach. It's a total outsourced EDI. We become your virtual EDI department, and we deliver it in the cloud. So now everything is at our location, and basically it's a very small footprint at your location that you don't have to maintain or update or do anything. It just basically works. So a little bit about Webforms. It's great. Like I said, you start off, you have one person downloading, the orders. They're rekeying it into, Mass 9200. It's a great way to start out, and it's inexpensive. But as you start growing, and now all of a sudden it grows to 100 orders, and then, there's 100 invoices and advanced ship notices and printing out labels. And then as you keep growing, you're adding more and more people. Now, if you throw in a third-party logistics or a warehouse that, you're working through as well, it throws another curveball into it and becomes a huge issue. So this is very labor-intensive, very prone to errors, because if you key it in wrong or wrong item number gets put in or wrong date, that becomes an issue, could get chargebacks, and it doesn't really scale well. Not a great way of, growing your business. Then there's the conventional EDI software. Now here's where, someone in either IT or you hire in an EDI person to tie in with the trading partners and ask them for all of their latest maps and specs. And if any of you have ever seen some of these, like a Walmart EDI 850 spec or a purchase order spec, it's probably about 80 or 90 pages long. So what happens is this IT or EDI has to support all of these boxes. And all of these boxes basically fall under the EDI. So there's the, whatever server you have it on, and then it depends on what trading partner uses for communication. It could be FTP, it could be AS2, could be a value-added network that you have to belong to. Then there's the EDI translator, and that's where all the maps tie into, so that when an order comes in from Target, it can be mapped into the correct format. And then there's keeping track of all the barcoding and labeling, and then also making sure that orders get received and 997s go back to the trading partner, and also that that when you send out invoices, you get back a 997. So there's a whole reconciliation and management of this whole piece. So this whole steady, to steady this box, you have to support all of these pieces in there. And like I said, it's usually someone's full-time job. Then there's a whole interface, the ERP interface into Mass, and making sure that that works. Then there's the labels, making sure they stay compliant. And then there's, if you have a warehouse management system or a 3PL, tying all that into the EDI and being able to handle all those documents. So this is usually high upfront costs, significant maintenance, and you need some type of EDI expertise in there for doing mappings or troubleshooting or problem solving or so forth. So in the normal business, your company, you're great at doing all of the core competencies, sourcing your product, designing it, marketing, sales, handling all the finance, manufacturing, whether you do it overseas, do it internal, and doing all your quality control. That's all part of a normal mid-sized, size business. That's their core competencies. But when it comes to, cleaning the floor or doing cleaning or any type of cleaning supplies, you don't go out and create a whole department for that usually. Usually, you don't, if you end up getting into some type of, someone's going to sue you, you don't become an attorney just because, so you could fight them. And, delivering packages, you don't create a small parcel delivery service when they're all out there, FedEx, UPS, the post office, and so forth. Well, EDI is a direct natural for outsourcing as well. So a little bit about RedTail and how we work. So RedTail's people will tie in with the trading partners and get all of the latest specs, their mapping specs for each of the transactions that you're going to be dealing with. We're the ones that do all the testing and validation of that map and make sure that not only can it translate, but when we test with you, it's going to be able to get pulled all the way into Mass 90. We launch it into production and make sure that, you know, we call you and we say, we're going to be launching this. Are we ready to go? Yes, we're ready to go. Then we're the ones that put together the labels, or the UCC 128 labels, that need to go on an advanced ship notice, and we get them approved by the trading partner. We have a warehouse link that ties directly in with our interface, and a 3PL link. So if you're using a third-party logistics, we can send down the 940 and the 945. I know I talk in a lot of numbers, but that's EDI for you. That's basically a shipping record down and what was shipped coming back. If you are using a warehouse link where you're using a third-party packing solution or a warehouse management system that does a lot of the packing and shipping for you, then we can actually automate the whole advanced ship notice right through the warehouse, the WMS link or the warehouse link, that will take a shipping record out of mass and automate that whole advanced ship notice. Then what RedTail does is, on an everyday basis, we're the ones that do the translation of the document that comes in or is going out. We validate it to make sure that it was good EDI and that it passed all of the validation tests. We do error checking, so if there was an error on an order that came in because it couldn't translate, we're the ones that will call the trading partner and tell them there was bad EDI that came over, or if we sent out an invoice and they said they couldn't translate it, we would be the ones to contact them and ask them, you know, why the INV07 segment failed, and we would correct it, and you just continue on with the core competencies of your business. We do all the correction and correct all of the errors. We monitor them so that when orders come in, we send back a 997, and we also make sure that when we send these orders to you, that we get back a receipt notification. If we don't, we will be contacting you to say, we sent over 50 orders yesterday, how come you didn't receive them? And we make sure that all that works. We do a backup of all of the information that comes in so that we have 7 years of available data available, so that if your server went down and you said, Jeff, we need all of last month's EDI transactions, we could submit them all back over. We do an audit to make sure, like I said, that orders were received, invoices were received, advanced ship notices, and so forth. And all of this works as a fine-oiled machine, and it all runs in the cloud. So RedTail has a low upfront cost and an all-inclusive transaction fee. We don't sit and nickel and dime people to death, oh, a map changed. Once you paid for a map once, it is all included in our transaction fee. So if that map changed 100 times, we change that for you free of charge. If the interface, if you upgrade to a new version of Mass 9200 and you're on a new version, once you paid for that interface once, you'll get the next version free of charge as well. A few benefits about working with RedTail is we have rapid implementation. We work with over 600. This slide really got to be changed. We're probably up close to 800 trading partners right now. We have published SLOs. SLOs are service level objectives. Being that we are in the cloud, we can have service level objectives, and I can show you those as well. But we actually publish them, and I do believe they're on our website as well as to what our service level objectives are. We have a tested ERP integration. Everything has been tested. We have been working with Mass 9200 for going on 10 years now, so we understand it very well. We have a warehouse and 3PL link, which makes your life much easier if you have those solutions in place and for handling EDI. And we stay up with all of the compliance issues. We get emails and monitoring of all of the trading partners that are out there. So when something changes, if Macy's changes a EDI spec, we get that usually ahead of you, and we'll end up making those changes and keep you totally compliant. We also have a low upfront cost, Everything's included in our one transaction fee. So when you take a look at this, saving time of not having to hire in a full EDI or a IT person to handle nothing but the EDI, we save you the time there. Any normal data entry person, customer service person could handle running EDI. So when you take a look at the lower, we have the lowest total cost of ownership because we save time and we save you the money of not being nickeled and dimed and maintaining and keeping up with all of the EDI. So our total cost of ownership is the lowest, usually 30 to 60% cheaper than everyone out there. We have a faster order-to-cash cycle. We work with a lot of these trading partners all the time, and we're very good at working with them. And we have a large return on investment. And I'll show you further ahead, we actually have tools that actually show you that. So it'll give you a quick payback. So here's a customer that we had, General Imaging, that was new to EDI. Their driving need was they had new orders coming in from all of the known retailers, the Best Buys and so forth of the world. They needed something that was integrated to their ERP, and they needed something that was fast to implement because all of a sudden they had to get these cameras out to all of these places. The end results were, we had end-to-end automation. We reduced their labor costs down to basically minutes a day for doing EDI. We increased their sales because they did EDI so well that they actually got a few of their other products into them as well. And they had a better cash flow because if you do an EDI, if Walmart says they pay net 30, when they receive that invoice, it's net 30. It is like right from that time, and they pay right on the button. When it's manually entered and there's a stack of them, they have to rekey them all in. It slows the cash flow down. So the whole idea, this is what they said, they didn't need an EDI support team. They didn't want to hire anyone, so RedTail's approach made total sense. RedTail is our EDI department. We've been able to avoid hiring a full-time IT employees, and they've been running EDI fantastic. This customer was working with Webforms. They had rapid order growth. They actually supply most of the military with the, when it was Iraq and Iran, they were sending over all of their glasses and sunglasses and so forth to the military. They needed integration. They were doing Webforms, and they needed timely order processing and support. We increased their sales. They doubled their EDI volume, and they lowered their total cost and had a much better cash flow. Data entry tasks that once took 16 work hours a day are down to just 3, and they're huge volume. Made it possible, and that includes for everything. That includes invoicing and advanced ship notices. They made it possible for Wiley X to double its EDI volume without having to hire it, and easily paid for itself within 4 months. Here's one that this is a huge company. This is a $2 billion hot water heater manufacturing. They had all EDI internal. They were struggling with EDI software. They had a backlog of trading partners, to bring on. So with RedTail, we implemented everything. We got rid of their backlog. They had 3 people running their everyday transactions. They were doing 20,000 transactions a month, plus they had a sister company that was doing about 10,000. So they were doing about 30,000 transactions a month. They had faster onboarding. They have no more backlog of trading partners. They increased their efficiency. They redeployed those 3 people back out to IT. They reduced their errors, and they had a shorter order-to-cash cycle. It actually, according to them, was saving them about $250,000 a year. Everyone is available and very responsive. It gave us a very high level of confidence and trust in our relationship. True EDI integration is the industry standard and trend, and that's from Patty over at A.O. Smith. So RedTail has been around for a long time. We've been going for 12 years, over 12 years now. We had 30% year-over-year customer increase, 40% annual transaction growth, and we exceed all of the cloud-based companies out there for industry benchmarks. We've had a long association with ASCG and Ativo, and we're also a Sage Gold development partner as well. Now here's something that you can take a look at on our website. We have an EDI rating tool, so if you guys are already doing EDI, you can kind of see how you rate out there as well. We have a Excel-based download that you can do right off of our website as well, and it's basically for actually figuring out what you're currently paying for an actual EDI transaction. You know, a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm only paying 50 cents because, you know, we're paying 40 cents a kilocharacter or whatever. Well, when you figure out people's time, chargebacks, you know, maintenance, getting nickeled and dimed to death on changing maps and so forth, it usually turns out that it's amazing when people see what they're actually paying. And if any of you are interested in RedTail, then what we would like to do is, you know, with these other groups, we would tie in with a discovery call and learn all about your business, because we want to make sure that not only that we're a good fit for your company, but you're a good fit for our company as well. We want to learn about your process flow, how you ship, how you pack, how you do all of those things, and be able to put together an analysis of, if you're already doing EDI or you're doing Webforms, how much it's actually costing you to do all that. If you're looking at other software, we'll compare it to that as well. And I will almost guarantee that your slide would look something similar to this, where, you know, this is how much RedTail would come in, and this is how much either you're paying already, or if you were going to go with another solution, it would look very similar to that. So we would give you a whole detailed analysis of your EDI. We would give you a whole overview of how we would work with you. We would give you a 3- and 5-year cash flow payback, and it would even be good enough to make sure that if a CFO looked at it or a CEO, they would totally understand what their return on investment would be. So that is it. Let me just give you a little summary. You know, the whole idea is everything's outsourced. We manage everything, all the EDI, in the cloud. RedTail, you know, will solve all of your problems, so that once, you know, if you have never done EDI before and you go to a trade show and all of a sudden Walmart comes up to you and says, yeah, great, you guys do EDI? Now it would be very easy for you to say, yes, we do, and basically hand it over to RedTail, and RedTail's the one that does all of the alignment and so forth. We deliver it, you know, in collaboration. It's not just RedTail. We deliver it with ASCG and Ativo to make sure that, you know, they know your systems better than we do. So they would be the ones to install the interface and make sure that that works correctly, and we work very closely with them to make sure that all that is delivered successfully. We have a strong integration with Sage Mass 90 and 200, and like I said, we also tie in with any of the, I should say with most of the warehouse management systems and the if you have a third-party logistics warehouse, we tie in with them. So we're cloud-based, low upfront, and we have the best total cost of ownership.